Welcome to the first episode of season 2 of Overrated. In this episode, we're going to be discussing B-movies starring Jerry Seinfeld, Patrick Warburton, and Renee Zellweger, directed by Simon J. Smith and Steve Hickner. So let's get right into the episode. My name is Sujay. I'm joined today by my two guests, Girish and Surya. Surya, this is your first time on the podcast. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
We'll just drop in. We'll start with where were you? So when and where did you watch this movie for the first time? So for me, I know I watched this movie like late, I guess, for like when it came out. Like I know I watched it sometime in high school, I think, which is like years and years after it came out. And I know I watched it because it was a meme. Like I knew that going in, so I was pretty late. What about you guys?
Yeah, I watched it in theaters, so I don't remember what year this movie came out, but like I watched it when it came out in theaters, and we went with like my whole family, like me, my mom, dad, and my sister, and like I realized because I rewatched it like for this podcast, and there's so much stuff that I didn't understand that I'm like, my parents had to sit through this. It's such a weird movie, and like for us, like when I watched it, I was like, oh, it's just like a movie, like there's like B jokes, there's just Jerry Seinfeld like being around. But like I watched it again, I was like, did we watch this movie in theaters? Like what's like
a surreal experience.
And then like I actually watched it pure, and I just like when the memes came, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that movie, but I never actually really watched it again for this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it for the first time ever, like literally just yesterday.
What?
You've never seen it before?
I know, right? You wouldn't think that I would hold out so long on a movie like this. And I didn't go into it with very high expectations at all. But honestly, like...
Okay. That's interesting.
Like,
you're going to have like a fresh perspective because you had never seen it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was pretty eye-opening in a strange way, I guess.
All right, cool. Well, we'll keep going then. Score it. So we'll give our personal scores of the movie, and then I'll tell you what Rotten Tomatoes had to say about it, and we'll see. So for me, like, this was a hard movie to get through for me, like, especially watching it again. Like, I don't know, like, it wasn't, like, for a lot of movies we're going to do this season, like, they're meme movies, but, like, they're good movies. Like, they're, like, funny to watch. But for me, like, it hurt at certain points, like, how stupid it is. So like I said pretty low. I said like 40.
Okay, so like it's a tough movie to score for me because like it reaches that point when you're watching a movie when it's like really bad and it gets worse, but then it hits a point when it's so bad that it's like good. You know what I mean? Like the plot, like it's so stupid. Like it's such an absurd concept. But like the fact that like Jerry Seinfeld like went to writers, like pitched this movie, a bunch of people like signed up, they made this whole thing. And just like there's some parts that are genuinely funny, but just the idea of this entire movie like existing is just kind of funny in general. So like I'll give it a 60, but that's like 50% out of the 60. So like only 10% is for the actual movie. The other is just all comedy. Like it's such a movie when like I don't know what my sense of humor is, but I enjoyed it.
You know, honestly, I'm in practically like the same boat. So like generally speaking, this movie is not worth your time. If you're going into this with like high expectations, don't. I don't know in what world you would, but yeah, just don't. But I mean, of course, like I basically knew like the two most like mainstream memes from this movie. Just like you like jazz, and
the entire script.
Yeah, basically like all known laws of aviation type stuff.
Yeah.
There's so much.
It is, yeah.
Right?
I'm so excited to talk about it.
I was honestly pleasantly surprised by that. So I'm going to give it like a 63.
Okay. So like my view is that like 50% is like the gauge, I guess, for 50% would be like if it was coming on TV, I'd watch it just like for a little bit even. But for this, I don't know if I would do that. Like it
depends the audience.
Yeah, like, I don't know, but for future episodes,
with you guys, 100% with you guys.
Yeah.
But if it was like
by myself, no.
It's definitely something you should watch as a group, but I think like that's like the maximum like enjoyment.
Yeah. All right. So the Rotten Tomatoes, the critics gave it a score of 50%, so basically what I said, and 53% audience. So it was like a little bit higher than critics, but still. Come on.
How much of the 53% though do you think is from people now like going and
Just
rating?
memeing it.
Yeah, like going right now and rating it on
Maybe.
Rotten Tomatoes. Like yeah,
Maybe.
it was probably like lower from before for sure. But
Yeah. Anyway, let's get right into it. The next category is let's talk about the plot. So let's talk about the plot of this movie. I gave like a little summary of what it is. So in case you haven't seen it and you're for whatever reason listening to this episode, this is what it's about. So a bee decides to break the monotony of his life and venture into the human world, where he learns that humans have been stealing honey from bees. Along with his human girlfriend, Vanessa, he sues the human
is the
race.
plot say girlfriend?
No, this is my personal.
I thought
summary of it.
okay. I thought it explicitly said girlfriend.
No,
was
I mean
like,
she kind of is, but
no, it is, but it would be
Yeah,
so
yeah.
funny if the movie acknowledged it and said that.
along with his human girlfriend Vanessa, he sues the human race. After winning the trial, drastic repercussions arise as bees no longer pollinate flowers, which causes Barry to reevaluate his decision. What a concept! Like,
dude, I just remember watching this in theaters, and like my mom, like we watched it. She's like, "Do you see like the impact of like nature and like we should respect bees and all that?" Like she's like, "They have so much power in the world." And like back then, I was like, "Yeah." And now I'm like watching this, and I'm like, dude, the way they portray it is because like in the end, they're like, "We need to restore balance," so they go out like spraying the pollen on the flowers to like automatically move.
I'm surprised she even got that much out of it, because like that's not what I got from it at all.
Yeah. I'm like the whole sequence of everything that happens. Like it seems like it can't get any crazier, but it does. Like, oh, it's this bee. It's like they live in a factory. It's like, oh, that's cute. That's kind of funny. It's like he gets a girlfriend who's a human. It's like, whoa, no way. It's like he sues the human race.
what's wild is him suing the human race. Like at the end of that, when he wins the trial, that's only 2/3 of the way through the movie. There's still another third of the movie. Like
I high key thought like it was done by then, but then I saw
there's
like
still 30
there's
minutes
like
left.
40 minutes left. Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck?
And there's just so many. It's just such an absurd concept that like. Not only does he sue the human race, like he wins, and it was like, alright, like he just gets control of like the SWAT and everything.
Yeah, it's so much going on. So I guess we can pick our most memeable scene or quote. So like I had the two that you mentioned before, Surya. The entire script as a meme, like when people would just like shorten it or say like or the like YouTube videos that'd be like B movie, but like when it's like faster every time he says B or something. Along with that, you like jazz. That's an iconic one. I'm sure you've heard that even if you haven't seen the movie. There's this one other line that I thought was just so funny. Like the scene, like it's in the court proceedings when I don't remember what it is exactly, but he says,
I know what you're talking about.
Bees will no longer be slaves to the white man, and then it pans over to the legal team, and the black guy just moves farther away from the white guy. So, like, what movie is this?
I rewinded that scene. I'm like, did they like say that in a kid's movie?
That was bold.
That was just so funny. I was like, is this? I can't believe I watched this in theaters.
Probably didn't get away with that now.
I didn't know that. Like the crazy place, that's so funny. I didn't even remember that until I watched the movie again.
No, I didn't either. Like,
that's
I was like, what the? How is nobody like mentioned this more?
Talked about that,
yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, you guys have any other memeable scenes?
I like the whole like montage of when they I have two little scenes that I think are kind of slept on just because everything else in this movie is so absurd. But the first the montage when they like freeing all the bees. Like they're like not freeing out, like they're getting their honey back, like the things they do. Like first off, he gets like the SWAT team, they're like a sniper rifle trained on when he's like take him out.
That was good too.
The whole montage is so funny because like he does a bunch of other stuff. It's like honey products. They like grade some woman's bath. They like take her shampoo, and there's like an old lady stirring honey in her tea. And the SWAT comes and like pushes her head into the table.
Yeah, that was good.
It's what like full order 66 on.
Yeah, I know. Like that's straight up what it is. And then I think my second like slightly slept on part is just the conclusion, like the whole scene where the plane, just the pilots get knocked unconscious because first off, somehow they haven't seen this like world famous bee who can talk to people. He gets scared, he like knocks himself out, and then the florist literally commands a plane and flies it with the help of like air support, not like the call tower or whatever, I forgot the name, traffic control. and then like a million bees just carrying the plane and then landing.
Bro, I don't get how they didn't like squish some. You know?
Yeah,
no.
I'm gonna get into this over because
The
this is my
concept is
overrated
just-
scene, but
Yeah, even worse because the fact that the whole point is to like transport some flowers and like to like literally grounding a plane.
my favorite part about that scene is that the people on the plane have no idea what's going on. Like later on, they're just like, "Come on, like what's taking so long?" Yeah, I don't know what that was about.
That's the whole ending act is just so funny. Like just every concept that happened.
Makthal, any more memeable scenes
For me, like, okay, there was too many to choose from, but like you guys talked about some of them. So honestly, for me, like the part that had me the most was probably like the hallucination scene when he's in like the pool, right?
I was like,
yeah, they're like talking and everything, right? And then all of a sudden she just gets in a plane. Like, why is that there? Then she does like the whole skywriting thing and everything, right?
yeah.
And then it just explodes.
Dude,
Well,
I forgot
that
about that
had
until you
me.
said that.
I could not contain myself at that moment.
Oh,
There's just
God.
Like,
so
okay,
much
so then there's like
stuff,
this
yeah.
other one, right? That like probably no one else would have been laughing at except for me, right? So, you know, the part like after they go to like the supermarket and like the whole like box guy like hits like
Oh yeah.
Barry, right? And then he goes in after that trying to figure out like where all the honey is. And he does like the whole like face off with like Hector and whatever.
Yeah.
When he puts the honey out, right? And he's like, okay, I'm walking away. The animation is like the weirdest thing ever. It's like it's going on like with his arms and everything. It's like his
put like a
legs are
screen
moving.
clipping of the animation if you can in the reaction
If you
video.
can find that, like you gotta put that.
Yeah, I'll
That
see.
just does not look right at all.
Damn. All right, and most memeable out of all those scenes, could you pick one? I'd say you like Jazz just because it's so iconic.
I'd say the montage, dude. The montage is just so funny. Like it is Jazz is the most iconic though. But like I laugh every time I watch that montage. It's so absurd.
For me, it's still the plane exploding.
All right, cool. We'll move to the next category then. Jar Jar Binks Award. Which character is the biggest meme? All right, there's so many to choose from, but for me, it has to be Ken, which is the boyfriend guy.
I was gonna say Ken. I was like, it's a tough. It's like
so
the main
funny. Like,
character.
I mean,
I have to go with Ken.
I had a feeling you guys are gonna choose Ken, so I went a different route. So
all right, who'd you say?
for me, like, okay, I already talked about Hector, but there's also the mosquito guy, Blood.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
like,
He's just a likable guy.
Yeah.
You know?
He's literally just Mushu from
Yeah.
Mulan, but in the B movie. Like
Yeah, exactly.
that's actually it's.
Right at the end though, it's like he's like, "Oh, you're a lawyer," and he's like,
That was.
"I'm already a blood-sucking parasite. All I need is a breathe."
That was the worst. I couldn't believe like they were just putting in like books like jokes you read in joke books at that point, like straight up. Oh my god! Like how is this not over yet?
But
Bruh.
Ken, though, man, like
I love Ken.
One of the reasons I liked him is because he has such a reasonable reaction to everything.
He's the most
He's
normal
like, yeah,
dude.
I'm gonna sue the human race, and he was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Like, and that was like a completely a valid response to that. Like,
He's like, no, and then he like goes like, Vanessa calls him for like dinner or something, and like him and Barry say there, and she leaves. He's like, why are you stealing my girl?
yeah, the whole
And he
scene of
tries
him
to-
just like
He
pretending
tries to
that. Like,
kill him. He tries to
Yeah.
kill him.
Bro, it's like, oh, I actually like the smell of flowers. And he's like,
Yeah, and he's like,
"Yeah,
you
how
like-
do you like the smell of flame?"
and then after that, when like he's leaving the apartment, and he's like, "I actually prefer stevia, artificial sweetener." Then he comes back 2 times just with more stevia facts, like for no reason. Oh God, Ken.
Dude, I love Ken. Like, fact that I think it is what you said that makes him the most memeable. Like, he's the only normal character in the entire movie. Like, Vanessa's like, "Oh yeah, you're talking B," and then she just like starts having an attraction to him, and Ken is like, "Does anyone else find this a little weird?" Like, no, and like the whole entire court of like the whole jury when they're doing it the
Yeah, they're
hearing or
all like,
whatever,
yeah, this
they
is
just
normal.
dismiss it. They're like, okay, cool. It's like they're ready to hear him talk, and he like makes some joke or something. They're like, it's like what?
Honestly, for
Yeah.
me, it's like his voice makes everything
Yeah.
so much
Yeah,
better.
it's a good voice actor.
It's
Yeah.
like yeah. I feel like I've heard him before. I didn't look it
I
up.
think he's in shit. I'll look it up real quick. I know I've heard it before. It's Patrick Warburton. He plays what's it called? In Family Guy, like Joe, the guy in the wheelchair.
Oh, he's Joe. Yeah, he's
Oh,
Joe.
yeah.
I knew it. Yeah, because he has like the voice that like sounds like it's about to crack. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny.
Like a lot of vocal inflection.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like the right word, but I know
Yeah.
there were also a few honorable mentions for me. Like,
Who
so
else?
yeah, there was
Yeah, let's hear it.
Hector, right? I mentioned him.
Mhm.
Like after that scene, I actually went on to like try to find that, and then
The
what I
clip.
ended up finding instead was like clips of like the boss battle in the B movie game where you like fight.
Wait, you fight Hector?
movie
It's like-
game.
It's like the same thing. It's like, okay, yeah, he has this like pin thing, and he's like trying to like hit you, and you have to like dodge it and stuff.
Yeah.
Wait. Can we go back? The B movie has a game.
Yeah, it has a game.
On what, like Wii, I assume? Like that was the console that I would assume this would be on.
DS. It has to
I
be
think-
on DS.
I think the footage I saw was like on PS2 or something.
Okay,
like
yeah,
that.
that too. Like PS2 used to
Yeah.
have like the old movies, like
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and this one's probably like the most out there, but the guy on the jury who's like the Christian jury dude.
Yeah.
He's just like like when he like flashes like his like whatever at him, and he's like I just feel like he has like the most reasonable reaction out of like every jury person.
The lawyer is a pretty memeable character too, in my opinion.
yeah.
The guy
But he was
defending
he's
the
very
company.
stereotypical lawyer, yeah.
He was,
Too
yeah.
over the top for me.
He was a little bit of, yeah.
Not very likable.
Just everyone in this character. That's why Ken is somehow the most memeable by being the most normal. Because everyone else in this
Yeah.
character, and he's a meme by not being a meme.
Cool. We'll go on then to our next category, 5 minutes of internet trivia. So I got some interesting stuff for you. Most of the trivia I found were like casting reconsiderations, so I didn't include a lot of them because a lot of the actors I didn't even heard of. But we'll start with the concept of this movie. So Jerry Seinfeld was inspired to write the script for this movie after his wife took up the hobby of beekeeping. Seinfeld felt like she was spending more time with the bees than with him and wanted to imagine a world where this was taken to the extreme.
So Seinfeld is Ken. In
yeah, essentially. Like
Seinfeld is Ken.
yeah.
He wanted to have that bee complex or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, so according to Jerry Seinfeld, he first pitched the idea as a joke to Steven Spielberg, but Spielberg ended up loving the idea, so he's like, yeah,
That's
maybe I
what
should do this. Like, this entire movie started as a joke, and he just
That's what
went
I'm
too far.
saying.
Like, yeah.
Wait,
The first two-
Spielberg was involved in this?
Yeah, I mean, like, he wasn't like part of it, but
Yeah.
he, like, was, like, helping Jerry Seinfeld, like, the ideas, just, like, concept-wise.
Gotcha. So he's this ghost writer, basically.
He's the ghost.
Steven
No, Jerry
Spielberg ghost
Seinfeld.
wrote the Bee movie. So the first two trailers of this movie were live action, actually, and then Steven Spielberg told him you should make it animated. So if you go and look
Whoa.
up the first two trailers for this movie, they're live
Wait,
action.
are you serious? Wait,
Yeah,
I have
Jerry
to watch this
Seinfeld's-
after this.
yeah.
Oh my god.
Watching the trailers for this and gameplay from the B movie game are like the two things you should look up after this if you haven't seen them. But yeah.
I would highly recommend the gameplay footage.
All right, next, other actors that were considered to voice Barry, David Spade and Paul Rudd. I think Paul Rudd would have been okay for Barry. I mean, like, Barry, like, he's just Jerry Seinfeld's signature voice. I think, like, I could not hear Jerry Seinfeld when he was saying him, like, his voice, but Paul Rudd would have been
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I can get behind Paul Rudd.
Yeah, I can hear Paul Rudd doing it. Like his voice from Parks and Rec. Like if he plays that he's basically kind of like that character, a little smarter. But like I could see the voice fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, final trivia point. The animators spent thousands of hours studying bees to learn how they move. And then when they made them move in the movie, they grossly like animated it, so like it looks a lot weirder than they anticipated, I guess.
Yeah, I think that I do think the animation is very like high quality. Like I think I noticed it when the like in the beginning when the jocks like the pollen jocks like they go outside, they're in the tennis court, and you can see like the fuzz on the tennis balls and like super high detail. I'm like, dude, it's like high quality.
Wait, so when they spent hours of research like figuring out how bees move, like were they or were they not trying to make it like realistic? Because like you
they
get
were
this
trying to make
fact,
it realistic,
right? And then you get like the whole idea of like bees carrying like an airplane, and then you just don't think like that's what they did in order to make this movie. But like,
they did do research, so
things that make it go, I guess.
Give them props for that. I mean, it looked decent, like the bees moving around. I'm like,
yeah. Not really a trivia point. Girish, what was it? What were you sending us earlier?
Oh my god. Okay. So I'll come back to this in my overrated point because I was actually like looking stuff up for that. But I was gonna look up are the bees in Bee Movie honeybees. I assume they are, but I'll talk about why I did that later. But I was like, is Bee Movie about H? And the first result is the Bee Movie about the Holocaust? And I have no idea why. And I clicked on it. There's like actually a decent amount of like Reddit theories, like articles on it. So I read one of them, and like one of them's like this conspiracy theory on Reddit, and it was like, so first off, like Jerry Seinfeld is Jewish, and it was like the bee community is like a depiction of the Jewish community, you know. And I was just so like the follow. He's like, because they it was like it's just a joke because he's like trying to talk about all the stereotypes against Jewish people. He's like, they hoard all the honey, which sounds like money. And I was like, this is so bad. It was just a very bad conspiracy. But like, there was so many. The fact that it was a recommended Google search for is Bee movies about H, it just says a lot about people thinking about this movie. Like, I don't know.
It sounds like a pretty like neat joke. Okay, not a neat joke. But, it sounds like something that people would say, right? To, like,
it does, yeah. But
conversation.
I'm surprised it has this much traction, though.
But like, it's because there is there is things that
there's some connection
relate to well. Like, okay, so like I wrote down a quote actually, and then it was actually like the same courtroom thing. And it's like, is this what nature intended for us to be addicted to these smoke machines and man-made wooden slat work camps? Like that is what he said, like quote for quote, and like you can't make that up.
There's a lot of good underlying symbolism, and I think that's something I'll talk about more in underrated. But like the Holocaust thing, I don't know about that. That's a little bit.
I didn't even think about that. I was looking it up, and I just typed H, and it was like, is it about the Holocaust? This is actually a popular theory. Like, I have no idea it existed.
Yeah, most of the things I've seen on Reddit are like, why did someone make this movie? But there's that too.
Did you see that one tweet by Netflix? I think it was a couple years ago, and it was like, we logged that someone watched the Bee Movie over like 300 times in the last year or something, and it was like, if you need help, like please like talk to us.
Yeah. All right, we'll move then to our last two. I mean, yeah, it is. But yeah, then we'll move to our last two categories: underrated and overrated. So we'll go through this scene, character, and aspect. So most underrated scene for me was the one that Makthal mentioned earlier, the one where Barry is fighting Hector in the grocery store. Like, I don't know why, like the animation is just so good in that scene. Like when he's using Stinger against like the thumbtack, like there's like a lot going on. And then it was also just really funny watching like Hector like pretend that like this is an actual like person he's fighting, like and then when he disarms him and then he's like pointing and he's like, where's the honey come from? Just everything about that was good.
You're about to be food for my iguana Ignacio.
Yeah,
I just find it funny that it's an iguana and its name is Ignacio.
Yeah, it's clever.
I'd say an underrated scene is tough for me, but I will say the opening scene is like not or like past the actually no, including the little thing at the beginning, like the all known laws. That's actually kind of insightful. Like that's a pretty good like quote, you know, like. But the fact that it just got me, but the whole sequence, like up until the commencement, like it's kind of a good intro to the movie, you know, like it's like
Yeah, that's good too.
It's like a nice animation. It's like, okay, bees like just like humans, like, so it's, you haven't heard any bee puns, so you're not really tired of them at that point, but like
They
like,
really hit you with just
they
every
oh
bee
my
pun possible.
God,
Literally
yeah.
every line is a bee pun. Like,
So like it's fine at that point, but like the opening sequence does like a good job. Like it's like, oh, okay, this is cute movie.
You probably already know what I'm about to say. It's the hallucination scene.
the hallucination.
The plane just.
Fair
How
enough.
funny that is.
I need to go back and watch that scene because like I didn't even
They could have
remember that
ended the
until you
movie
said
right there, and I would have been satisfied.
that. All right. We'll go to character next then. Most underrated character. I'll say my most underrated character was the lawyer. He was very accurate, I guess, for a lawyer. And if you like go back through and watch his like argument, it makes a decent amount of sense.
Yeah, I
Good
mean,
job.
fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I'd say the most underrated character is Adam, like his friend.
His friend.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty chill. Like he's actually like pretty normal the whole time. Like nothing. The only like thing that he does is like he stings the lawyer. Like he gets instigated, but like that's also like he kind of acts in character. Like he's surprisingly in this movie full of memes. Like he's somehow a normal bee, you know. Like, and he's I don't think people talk about that enough. You know? He's a
Wait,
good
so
friend.
I never understood after he stung the dude, why didn't he die? Like,
Because he
replaced
got like
his stinger?
they replaced it with like a little like baby pin or what, I don't know, but like it is very loose that they're like, oh, if you sting someone you die. Which first off, I don't think that's actually I think it is too. But they're like, if you sting someone you die. Scenarios they do this, and like the person who stings someone just like doesn't die. Like they.
I saw
about
this
it a lot.
meme that was like they gave this bee a hospital bed. Like, can you imagine checking into a hospital and they're like, we don't have any beds, and they're like, what about that one? He's like, oh, a bee's in it.
Oh yeah. I don't know if this goes a little into overrated, but it's like kind of that scene. I'll talk about it like a little more. But when he's in the hospital, they like hook him up to an IV, and the honey is in the. Like they're implying that their lifeblood is.
That's not how honey works.
Yeah, I'll talk about that later. Yeah.
Kind of interesting that you mentioned like they gave like a whole bed to like this one bee, right? And we're like in a time where like people are gonna get triggered over that. And like that also reminds me of like the other scene, like when when Ken tries to kill Barry. Like with like the makeshift flamethrower, he burns up the toilet paper. Like you can't make that up once again. Like
this movie is like the ultimate trigger for quarantine.
Basically, I mean, and it's like I also like that you mentioned his friend. Like I forgot what his name was, but
Adam.
Adam.
Yeah, like my favorite quote from him was like when Barry asked like, "What was it like stinging someone?" He replies with, "It was all adrenaline and ecstasy."
Yeah, and I was like, "What is he talking about?" His face too is like, "It's all adrenaline," and then ecstasy. And I'm like, dude, he's definitely not talking about stinging. And the fact that he stings him in the ass too, like.
Oh yeah, that's not something that people really ever talk about when it comes to this movie. So like, I was glad to find that. But for me, I'd probably say most underrated is Blood the Mosquito. Like he only gets like a little.
He's very.
Time,
it's very yeah.
It is just Chris Rock as an animated character again.
Yeah.
It's you get what you know what you're getting. You know what you're getting.
It's pretty ironic too, because like mosquitoes, like everyone generally hates them, and like no one likes them. But the irony is that like this character is actually kind of likable. So
I never understood why he's like yellow, black and yellow. Like I didn't think mosquitoes were that color. You know?
Mosquitoes?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I thought he was brown.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't think he was. But
I can't remember. Might have just been me misremembering.
I didn't really think
he's like brown and yellow.
Yeah, but like the yellow.
I don't know.
Mosquitoes yellow. I didn't think that. I don't know. I just thought like I just remember watching this as a kid, and I thought that he was also a bee because I was like stupid. So I was like, "What's going on here?"
Like an inbred bee or something.
Yeah, like.
All right, and then our most underrated aspect of the movie. So I said the message at the beginning of the movie was really interesting for me. So it's like a bee becomes disillusioned when he finds out he has to work at one job for the rest of his life, and how boring it can be, especially like if it's an office job. And like if they had just kept that as the concept for the movie and done it the whole way through, and like him just going on adventures and being like, I don't want to just be like doing the one thing my entire life. Like that was a good message for me. I think that was underrated.
Yeah, I think I do think an underrated aspect of this movie is like before it got memed, it was actually like a pretty good kids movie. Like I watched it as a kid. I do remember the theater was pretty packed. Like they sold a lot of merch probably. Like like I do think I do think it is really funny looking at it now, which is probably why it got memed, because like people like me who watched it as a kid like revisited it and they were like, this movie's insane. And then like just got it. But like I do think it was a pretty decent kids movie, like before it became corrupted. I mean
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like the main thing. Like, it's still a kids movie at the end, so like while plot wise, like it would have been really cool to see like that idea develop throughout the whole time and see as like development through that. Like, I don't think a kid's gonna have the attention span or like even like the ability to relate to something like that. At least at that moment, right? So like it would have been cool to see something like that, but at the same time, like there's probably like a reason why we didn't.
Yeah. There's some pretty high level themes, you know, like when Barry just like destabilizes the entire economy of the B word. They have like a workers like a ballot. They're like, we don't have to work anymore. Get laid off their jobs.
Yeah.
All right, then we'll go to our last category, most overrated. So start with our most overrated scene. It's got to be, for me, the bees flying the plane. Like, that just... Okay, I dealt with a certain amount of, like, absurdity in this movie up to that point, and I was willing to accept it up till here. But when they just start flying, get under the plane, pick it up, and then there's that one scene where they're trying to land it, and they're just, like rotating the plane, like, on a single point. Like, at that point, I was just like, nope, we're done. Pull the plug. Like... Yeah.
So yeah, definitely probably like that one's kind of overrated. Like I would say in terms of like concept wise, a lot of the scenes in the beginning kind of just overlook like logic. So like Barry's like, he goes and sits down. Okay, like along with the rest of them, like yeah, but like like Barry sits down and he's like, oh, like this is the commencement. And then Adam's like, yeah, like we're gonna pick like jobs for life. He's like, wait, for life? It's like, what have you been learning for all these years? And like so much of the first part of the movie is just him acting so dumb, and it's clearly for exposition because like we obviously don't know it. But like you're telling me this guy went to school for all these years, he like knows all this. There's like so many other points that get brought up in that beginning scene, and like it's just like, you did not know this. Like what have you been doing for the past like years or whatever? I do think, along with the plane scene takes the cake, but I don't want to repeat stuff like that. That beginning is pretty overlooking a lot of logic just for exposition.
Yeah, I gotta say, for me, like I was enjoying it as a meme up until like the whole like plan to repollinate. Like at that point, it just fell off. But for me, it was like they're not really scenes, but like the quotes from the movie that are like, okay, all known laws of aviation, and like, like the memes that people know, right? Like I feel like those are kind of like hyped up so much more to the point that you don't really see like everything this movie has to offer in terms of like meme material.
Yeah.
So like in that regard, like I think like those are kind of like overrated.
Yeah. But your like jazz thing isn't even that funny. I just think it's funny.
Yeah, it's just the way that they like meme it. Like they're like
that's like not even that's not supposed to be like one of the funny scenes in the movie. Like it's just and you're like jazz the weird face. It's like
I think just the fact that like you like jazz, the fact that it's funny because the way that it's coupled with the fact that a bee is currently like flirting with a human, and it works. Like just that combination just makes it funnier, I guess.
What do you think the conversation between Jerry Seinfeld and his wife was after this movie?
He's like,
I noticed you've been taking a lot into beekeeping. He's like, what are you implying, Jerry? I'm very curious to see how that went down. How she handled him making an entire movie and just shit on her hobby.
Cue the Seinfeld theme.
Yeah. The Seinfeld theme plays, bum.
That's the one.
All right. We'll go into most overrated character. So for me, I said Vanessa. Like she's just such a dumbass in this movie, and she's like I guess like Barry, you're willing to accept a certain level of like absurdity from him because he's like he doesn't understand like the
Yeah,
human
he's a bee. He's
but
a
she's
bee.
a human being. Like she's just accepting that like this bee, he's gonna sue the human race. Like I'm okay. It's okay for me to have like a relationship with him. Like just so much that she like just so much that she was just being a dumbass for in the movie.
I think yeah, it is a lot of just her overlooking logic. Like first off, she's a florist, and like she ends up being like his lawyer. Like she represents him, kind of. She helps him with like writing the whole legal document, and they just mail it. And then the fact that she just kind of dismisses everyone else who's like, "You're crazy." She's like, "They just don't understand." It's like, no, they're right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're kind of all in agreement that Vanessa is
it's
probably,
pretty hard to find a character that's not a meme
for this movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, for me as well, it's like she's just too quick to accept like the whole like basically everything that drives the plot forward. But
I swear to God, like when he starts talking to her, she freaks out for a second, and then within like 10 seconds, she's like, okay, this is normal. Like
right.
she doesn't like try to kill him or like understand what's going on or anything. But like, it's like, what are you? What is this?
I guess part of the reason is because like okay, once again, it's like a kid's movie, and you have to like kind of like appeal to like the whole like attention span thing. It's like, okay, you're not gonna sit through like a whole like 3-hour movie of someone trying to come to terms that they're talking to a bee, right? It's like,
yeah. All right, then we'll talk about last thing, overrated aspects. So on top of just the fact that someone wrote, animated, and voiced this movie the whole way through, and no one thought like the concept was insane or anything, what's crazy for me is that this was my first introduction to Jerry Seinfeld. Like, this is the first time like I'd ever heard of Jerry Seinfeld. Like, I didn't watch Seinfeld, and like that's a really good sitcom. Apparently, I haven't seen it yet, but it's like
it's old. Yeah,
it's considered one of the best sitcoms of all time. And so that's what he's mostly known for. But like along with his comedy and stuff like that, like this is the first time I like heard from Jerry Seinfeld, and the fact that it's from B movies kind of like insane. And also like I think this might have been the last time I heard of Jerry Seinfeld too. Like this is the first and last, like because like past that he didn't really do much besides like comedy, and he recently put out a comedy special on Netflix. But when I saw that, I was thinking like, what's the last thing that Jerry Seinfeld did? I swear to God, I thought it was B movie. So
I think yeah, he's a really good comedian, but I think this kind of just is his biggest work other than Seinfeld, which is kind of sad because I'm sure he's done a lot more other stuff.
Yeah.
I definitely learned about Seinfeld first from like the music meme before like anything else.
Yeah.
And that dude, that was kind of recent as well. Like,
I watched this movie, like I said, like in middle school, so like I had no idea what Seinfeld was at the time. So but again, like I haven't seen any of his other stuff because the sitcom's pretty old, and like I'm sure it's really good, but I just haven't gone around to watch it. Yeah, for me, I guess so. Okay, this is what I did the research for. So most overrated aspect. Okay, so first off, the reason I looked up if they were honeybees, just because I'm making sure, but they are honeybees, obviously, because they make honey. But honeybees are an invasive species in North America. They're not even primary pollinators. Like they're an invasive species, and that's why that like they're the only species around now that pollinate because they killed everything else. So like that's why I was kind of surprised because like first when the honeybees die, like they just aside from the pure disregard they have for how pollination works in general, the other fact is that once the bees stop pollinating, like there's hummingbirds, moths, butterflies, there's so many other like bats also pollinate. There's so many other that pollinate. And then the bees stop, and they're like, "Well, shit!" Like, no.
Well, I mean, I guess like the bees are the most populous, right?
They are the most populous, but like the premise of the last part of the movie was like, there's only like a handful of flowers left in California, and that's what they're like trying to transfer. It's like there's still other pollinators, you know? Like, I just think that's why they're honeybees because they're an invasive species, which is why I was like, this is
save the bees,
Girish.
No, dude, I remember I found this out during the Save the Bees because I think I was in APES at the time, and my APES teacher was like, screw the bees. Well, that's bees, but she was like, yeah, people are feeling bad, but like we have to understand this isn't their home. I was like, oh.
So your APES teacher was like the original like bees are overrated.
Yeah, she was the one who was like, bees are overrated, and I was like, oh. That probably was when the whole movie became a meme too. It was like junior year of high school.
She's like, fuck them bees.
Shout out Miss McKee. My favorite.
What about you, Makthal?
For
Overrated
me,
aspect?
so they tried to like include "Here Comes the Sun" into the.
Oh yeah,
the
there's a
thing.
lot of songs that they just randomly put in. Like it didn't make sense, but they put it in.
And like here, that's a good song, right? But why'd they have to do a cover? Like, couldn't they just do the original? I don't know. I think we're gonna cover Megaminds like later on this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm so happy you played
But
that.
Megamind has like just all the original songs.
They do,
It's
yeah.
like,
They
okay,
do the
yeah,
straight.
This is great,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. That's probably like not even like that important, but I just think
Here
like,
No,
comes
that's fine. I do think they put a lot of songs randomly. There was one more at the beginning. I forgot what it was.
And it's "Here Comes the Sun" by the Beatles in a movie about bees.
All right, we're looking up the B movie playlist on Spotify. Music from B movie. Damn. Okay, I don't know what it was, but yeah, whatever you said was valid too. The "Here Comes the Sun." Not really sure. Oh, one more thing I just thought of.
it was also playing during the part where like nothing makes sense. Like they're just like instantly pollinating things.
Yeah.
And-
I think
I
they
don't know.
realized they got to the end and realized they were running out of time and were like, it's fixed.
Just wrap it up.
Yeah.
Just finish it up now.
One more thing I just realized is that the name of this movie is B movie, not the B movie.
Wait,
They just
really?
called it B movie, yeah, which also pisses me off. Like,
Oh, that's a pun. Like B movie.
I guess, but why couldn't they have called it the B movie?
I don't know, I think it's fine.
The
I
creative
think
mind
it's
of
funny
Jerry
that way.
Seinfeld.
I guess so, yeah. All right. Do you guys have anything else left, overrated or otherwise?
Not really, no.
All right, then I guess this is the end of our episode. Thank you for listening to our episode on B Movie. If you haven't already, please give us a follow on whatever platform you're listening to this on, and also follow our Instagram at Overrated Podcast. If you're listening to this on YouTube, please hit us up with a like and subscribe. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. This has been Overrated.